If you're working in a home studio, you can make great sounding demos and shareable recordings working with just your computer, an audio interface, and whatever microphones and instruments you can afford. But experienced producers and engineers use lots of different analog and digital gear to achieve their desired sound. Many of them also produce and mix almost entirely in the box. If you use any acoustic sound sources in your recording project, from a voice to a guitar to a symphony orchestra, you're going to need other hardware besides your computer, even if it's only a one-input audio interface. If you want to record a live band, you're going to need something with a lot more inputs. As we've mentioned, the first component you'll need is a mic pre. Mic pre's can be part of an audio interface, a mixer, or a completely self-contained unit. Dynamic microphones, like the ones you typically use for live performance, by themselves output very low power, somewhere in the 1 to 100 microvolt range. A microphone preamplifier increases that level by up to 70 dB to anywhere up to 10 volts. Additionally, condenser mics, used mostly in recording situations, require a power source to operate properly. An external mic pre will often provide this power, called phantom power. Phantom power provides a DC current through the mic cable. This voltage is usually between 12 and 48 volts, with 48 volts being the most common. We'll discuss this in more depth in the videos on microphones. External mic pre's can also have built-in equalization and compression, and they can have digital converters, making them an audio interface for your computer. But high-end mic pre's will typically have analog outputs that are used to feed high-quality analog-to-digital converters. External equalizers have been around for a long time. Most people are familiar with graphic equalizers, which have several sliders, usually 15 or 31, arranged in a row. These sliders correspond to frequency bands, which control one small area of the total bandwidth of a sound. Pro studios often use parametric equalizers, which give you more precise control over a frequency band. Some of the most desired outboard equalizers are analog units that became popular for specific instruments, such as bass. We'll look at equalizers in greater detail in the video on equalization and plugins. Compressors and limiters are devices or programs that equalize the gain rather than the tone of a sound. When a performance or recording has a wide dynamic range, meaning the range between the softest and loudest sounds, a compressor will smoothly even out the differences, lowering the loudest parts and raising the softest parts to the desired range. A limiter only affects the loudest signals in a continuous performance or recording, so limiters are often used on a final mix to make a mix sound louder. The volume of the overall mix can be raised because the loudest sounds are limited. We'll have much more on compressors and limiters in the video on plugins. A direct box, also known as a DI, the abbreviation for direct injection, works in an opposite way to a mic pre. A direct box modifies the signal of an electric instrument such as a guitar or bass so that it can be connected directly to the mic input of a mixer, mic pre, or audio interface. Technically, the direct box takes a high impedance, unbalanced signal and converts it to a low impedance, balanced signal. This means that the signal can be sent over long cable runs with significantly less signal loss, especially in high frequencies, and reject interference much better. This is great for live performance, of course, but it also helps in the studio because it keeps the signal compatible with mixing consoles and preamps that aren't designed to accept high impedance signals generated by electronic instruments. Although it's not considered audio gear, one device has taken on increased importance in the digital age. The power conditioner has become an essential component for any studio that could lose a lot of work when there's a loss of power between backups. A power conditioner can be as simple as a common outlet strip with a surge suppressor, or as advanced as a large unit that can guard against many typical power quality problems. The goal is to keep a steady stream of clean power available to your gear, even in the event of a total power loss, until data can be saved and gear can be shut down properly. The first important outboard gear for creative audio production was designed for effects. Although these effects, such as reverbs and delays, are now often generated by plugins, many fans of analog recording and signal processing still seek out and use some of the classic reverb and delay units. Other specialized outboard gear devices include high-end A to D and D to A converters and MIDI interfaces. Reverberation is the most common audio effect and has been generated by many methods over the years. Recording studios first used echo chambers and microphones to simulate and capture the effects of large performance spaces like churches and concert halls. Eventually, smaller devices using mechanical and electronic components were developed. And creative producers learned you could capture a similar effect simply by recording in a smaller reflective space like a tiled bathroom. Spring reverb units were very popular in guitar amplifiers and were sometimes manufactured as rack mount gear for studios. Reverb was one of the first signal processing effects to be generated by digital algorithms in pro audio gear before the advent of digital recording. Today, reverb is almost always generated digitally by a digital plug-in or built-in effect, but analog and digital outboard units can still be found. The first electronic reverb units were built around simply repeating the original signal many times. As these repeats got closer and closer together, they sound more like a natural echo than a repeating sound. But controlled and audible repeating was also a desirable sound, so early echo devices became known as delay units. Some of these used physical tape loops to enable simple and complex repeating of a sound. With digital technology, these repeats could be controlled and set at very specific intervals so that an echo could be created that matched the beat of the music. Digital delay units became some of the most desired outboard gear. As delay units evolved, engineers discovered new effects that could be generated by controlled processing of a repeated signal. Effects that were originally created through mechanical means like phase shifting and flanging were now possible with modified delay processors. Early attempts at pitch shifting and harmonization were also based on delay units, and many of these units are still actively in use in studios around the world. Other outboard gear was developed to take advantage of new capabilities in the computer age. MIDI controllers and interfaces were the first digital outboard devices. These allowed synthesizers and drum machines to communicate with each other, primarily for storing patches, presets of internally generated sounds, and for uploading and downloading internal data to and from a personal computer. As digital recording became more affordable and practical, more and more of these sounds and functions were handled by the computer itself. Today, one external keyboard can control multiple software synthesizers residing in the computer itself rather than in many external keyboards. In high-end studios, dedicated A to D and D to A outboard converters handle the digitizing of live audio for recording. These converters use very high-quality components and have capabilities beyond the simple converters available in most home recording gear. However, many entry-level and semi-pro audio interfaces and mic pre's handle conversion very well and are completely adequate for making great sounding recordings and shareable audio mixes. Although this overview touches on the most common outboard signal processors in professional environments, it's not meant to be a complete list. You can also find expanders, filters, channel strips, computers, routers, and all kinds of unique sonic tools and aids to improve and assist the recording process. Whether it means renting a studio or obtaining the gear yourself, the important thing is to find and make use of the gear that will help your recording project have the killer sound you're looking for.